Donald Trump's illegal strike on Iran is maybe the biggest catastrophe of his entire presidency so far, not only because it has caused his MAGA loyalists to turn on him in a very public way, but very publicly, Donald Trump's own military officials are saying this wasn't the success he is claiming it to be. Donald Trump claimed a perfect operation last night, but continues to backtrack on that until he eventually melted down in an insane Truth Social post that we're going to get into. But before we do, I want to get into the other rage post Donald Trump made tonight at Representative Thomas Massie, a Republican who's been speaking out against him. And it all started with this clip right here.
Process.
Well, you heard from Mitch McConnell, the former Republican leader, the senator, say it was a bad week for the isolationists. He was talking about Tucker Carlson and he was talking about Steve Bannon. Do you think that the president is making a choice here, or is he trying to have it both ways? Both saying, I'm going to please the hawks of the party by bombing, but then I'm going to say I want a peace deal and make the isolationists happy by saying, you know, I'm not committing to anything more than one and done.
Well, I'll concede this. It was a good week for the neocons in the military-industrial complex who want war all the time. I wouldn't call my side of the MAGA base isolationists. We are exhausted. We are tired from all of these wars, and we're non-interventionists. I mean, this was one of the promises. I mean, are you going to call President Trump's campaign an isolationist campaign? What he promised us was we would put America first.
So Massie has been one of the loudest voices speaking out against Donald Trump really during this entire presidency, but he has made the most noise as it comes to Donald Trump's illegal strike on Iran. We reported just a couple days ago on the resolution put forward by Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie to make sure it was clear that Donald Trump does not have the constitutional authority to launch this illegal strike, although he already did. So of course Massie has been hammering him, and now Donald Trump is freaking out, not only starting a PAC to try to primary him, but just going off on this insane Truth Social post that we have to check out before his rage post over the failure in Iran. Trump wrote on Truth Social, Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky is not MAGA, even though he likes to say he is. Actually, MAGA doesn't want him, doesn't know him, and doesn't respect him. He is a negative force who almost always votes no matter how good something may be. He's a simple-minded grandstander who thinks it's good politics for Iran to have the highest level nuclear weapon, while at the same time yelling death to America every chance they get. Iran has killed and maimed thousands of Americans and even took over the American embassy in Tehran under the Carter administration. We had a spectacular military success yesterday, taking the bomb right out of their hands, and they would use it if they could. But as usual, and despite all the praise and accolades received, this lightweight congressman is against what was so brilliantly achieved last night in Iran. Now, the post continued like that for about 12,000 misspelled more words, but I don't need to hear all of that. All I know is Donald Trump is furious, and it only got even worse as we talked about, a report has been detailing that his strike wasn't the smashing success that he claims it to be. So before we can get into Trump's response to that, I want to check out just how much of a failure this was. Satellites show damage to Iran's nuclear program, but experts say it's not destroyed. U.S. officials say that strikes conducted on 3 key Iranian nuclear sites have devastated its nuclear program, but independent experts analyzing commercial satellite imagery say the nation's long-running nuclear enterprise is far from destroyed. At the end of the day, there are some really important things that haven't been hit, says Jeffrey Lewis, a professor at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, who tracks Iran's nuclear facilities. If this ends here, it's a really incomplete strike. In particular, Lewis says the strike doesn't seem to have touched Iran's stocks of highly enriched uranium. Today, it still has the material and we don't know where it is, he said. I think you have to assume that significant amounts of this enriched uranium still exist, so this is not over by any means, agrees David Albright, the president of the Institute for Sciences and International Security, which has closely tracked Iran's nuclear program for years. The independent assessments stand in stark contrast to congratulatory statements from the Trump administration in the wake of the strikes. But it's not just statements from officials who have obtained leaked images via satellites and are detailing how these strikes were not complete. Even Donald Trump's own military officials say it's too far to call this a complete destruction and a smashing success like Donald Trump says, which is the reason he is freaking out on Truth Social, and a complete meltdown right here. Monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran as shown by satellite images, Trump wrote. Obliteration is an accurate term. The white structure shown is deeply embedded into the rock, with even its roof well below ground level and completely shielded from flame. The biggest damage took place far below ground level. Bullseye. So Trump is trying to spin a narrative he is clearly lost that this strike wasn't successful, which it wasn't. And it is only adding to concern that Donald Trump will continue strikes in Iran, or that he has publicly stated he might be considering regime change, further action, further escalation in a war he claimed would never start during his campaign. But this is not the only reoccurring or resurfacing clip we're seeing lately of war and Donald Trump at the same time being discussed. A clip is resurfaced of Kamala Harris talking about Donald Trump engaging in war with Iran, and I just think it's so perfect in this current moment.
He took unilateral action to withdraw us from the Iran nuclear deal. Some people liked it, some people didn't. Some people thought it should be stronger than it was, but it was very well negotiated, and people were complying with it. And he pulls us out of it based on unilateral action, frankly, from my perspective, born out of his fragile ego. And everything that we have seen happen since was predictable to one extent or another. Iran poses a real threat to the United States based on its nuclear capabilities. And the negotiation of the JCPOA and that Iran nuclear deal was a smart way to put a cap on that in terms of escalating the threat. And now we look, and then apparently he's tweeting out, this bravado about, lock and loaded. What does that mean? Okay, and also...
Well, it's an implicit military threat that the
yes,
U.S. is going to use. We're going to use U.S. force.
Yes, it is. And again, listen, as far as I'm concerned, this president is motivated by his personal insecurities more than he is our national security. And so what we're looking at is, again, a threat that might be taken seriously. And I would dare to say that that threat was issued without serious consultation with our allies, with our military leaders, with our diplomatic leaders. What are our alternatives? Let's also be clear, if this president is thinking about putting us in a position where we're in a war with Iran, the consequences will be absolutely unacceptable and tragic in terms of the young men and women who are American soldiers who would be sent and deployed into something that was completely avoidable.
Now, of course, that is a resurfaced clip of Kamala Harris, but there have been so many Democrats over the past couple of hours, really the past 24 hours, who have slow-walked statements. And I understand the urge to wait until we have the proper intelligence, but you don't need the proper intelligence to respond to Trump's illegal strike or to say that it's true that Americans don't want to participate, don't want to get involved in these endless and useless wars. I don't understand why we have to take time with that or make sure that our phraseology is perfect. Do what someone like Congressman Ro Khanna or AOC or Bernie Sanders have done and just state clearly that we are not going to be fighting a war so Donald Trump can try to boost his approval rating. That's absurd. And we heard more of that rhetoric, which we need, from Elizabeth Warren right here.
What we're not hearing is what exactly is the plan here. Because let's be clear, yes, we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but there is no way to bomb our way to an Iran that does not have either the desire or the knowledge to build a nuclear weapon. So what is the plan if Donald Trump drops bombs in Iran? Is it that we're going to go back every few years and just drop them again and again? Is it that we're going to evacuate people from the region? Are we going to put American soldiers on the ground in the area? What is the long-term plan, and what does it mean for our people? What does it mean for stability in the region, but also long-term peace for the United States? For me, the question of going to war is one that's very personal. All three of my brothers served in the military. I just came from Jake's Java, and we're reminded the cost of what it means to keep a fleet of active duty military around the world and to send them more into harm's way. My oldest brother, Don Reed, did 288 combat missions in Vietnam. We were blessed to get him back, but many people did not come back, and many families still have that hole in their hearts. Our service members who volunteer to give so much have a right to know that the President of the United States values their lives and sends them into harm's way only when we clearly have a plan and understand both what our goals are and how this protects the United States of America. Donald Trump has not done that, and I will fight him every inch of the war.
Too many times, and I really feel this in the current moment. Of course, it is important to call out the illegal attack being taken by Donald Trump, but also we need to think about the response from Democrats in Congress. I remember after we saw Senator Alex Padilla arrested, which feels like ages ago somehow in this current news cycle, that there were Democratic senators saying, we need to see what this report says, referencing a possible investigation. We need an investigation of this. What happened? And I understand, yes, you want all the facts and details, but why? You can see most of what Trump does. The corruption is in public. The criminality is in public. These illegal attacks, they're happening very publicly. I know you want all the information, and that's great, but also observe with your eyes and speak from your heart. Like, I don't want this to be an emotional plea, but seriously, fight back. And do it now. Do it while people are feeling this rightful indignation towards a president who said we would not be getting into wars and has now already launched one. We have to call it out. We're certainly going to be on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.